think it's about time I told this story. This subject is kind of a tricky one, specifically for me, but I'm gonna give it a shot. And I'm not gonna worry about like sounding crazy in this video. I'm just gonna be honest. When most people think of imaginary friends, they think of little kids, 4 or 5 years old, running around, playing with people that they created in their minds that no one else can see, putting a place at the table for them, talking to them. For me, it was different. I was older. I had imaginary friends from age 4 all the way up until I became an adult. They were such a part of my life that I believed they were real. To this day, actually, I can't say that they're not real out loud or in my head without feeling wrong, because I guess I still either believe that they're real or want to believe that they're real. So let's start from the beginning. My earliest memory of having these imaginary friends is sitting under the dining room table in our house and like talking to, his name was Dammy. That's not really a real name because like it has kind of a bad word in it, but I don't know, that was his name. I had 6 imaginary friends. Dammy, Shawnee Darling, Muffy Alice, Cassidy, Dr. Duck, and Jenny. And there were a few more that ran away or I lost them or something like that, and I feel really bad. They each kind of came from characters I'd seen in the real world. Shawnee Darling looked like Francine from Arthur. Dr. Duck was an actual duck and he was a scientist. That was his job. I didn't see him too often because he was always working and traveling. Actually, he was an anthropologist as well. So I would always go to him for advice. Jenny was from Vancouver. I didn't get to see her too often because she lived in Canada. In the beginning, when I was like 6, 7, 8, I could still see them, like really see them. Almost like it wasn't in my imagination, but I was really seeing them. And I would talk to them out loud. And I talked about them all the time, and they were like my best friends, and they went everywhere with me. They went to school with me, they went to the same school. They ate dinner with me, they played with me outside, we had the same friends. I knew their parents and I knew their families because they had families too, they had lives. My parents were cool with it because I was 6, and kids have imaginary friends at that age. Also, I had really extreme social anxiety back then. Some of you guys have selective mutism too. It's a specific type of social anxiety, so you know. Basically, you can only talk around people that you're really comfortable around, which is really sad because I couldn't even talk around my aunts and uncles, and I heard them talk about me sometimes. Like, I know they thought I was super weird for not being able to talk. Like at school, I would feel really tense all the time, and if I had to use the bathroom, I was afraid to ask. I never talked in class. I never talked to like the other kids unless they came up to me first. And if I had to talk to a teacher, I couldn't like call out their name or anything. I had to like tap their shoulder because I didn't feel comfortable even saying like their name. When I talked, this weird thing happened where I talked like really slowly and like in a really low voice, and I didn't sound like myself. I sounded like this like nervous other version of myself. So that's kind of a backstory. So like as I grew up, I never like stopped talking to my imaginary friends. I never stopped believing in them. Like at age 6, they were my life basically, and they were my only friends. That never stopped. Like usually for a kid, I guess you would kind of like forget about your imaginary friends by age like 8 or 9. I never forgot about mine. My relationship with my imaginary friends continued like into my teens and then into like adulthood. But I stopped talking to them out loud and I stopped seeing them so clearly. Like I had to work harder to picture them, but they were still there. And also they aged with me. When I was 8, my family, we all moved from Houston, Texas to Canada. Like life was kind of unstable and crazy, and they were like my constant. Like I always had them to talk to. When I think back about different times throughout my childhood and teenhood, they're just as much a part of those memories as like real people. I have specific memories of them like in conversations we had. There are events I would go to, like birthday parties or graduations, and like they would always be there. Even if I wasn't like acknowledging them or no one else was, I knew they were there with me. They were always there with me. Like, they were the best friends that a person could want or a kid could want, because they were always there and I could talk to them about anything, and they knew me better than anyone else. I never told anyone about my imaginary friends because as I became a teenager, I knew that it wasn't normal to be a teenager and have imaginary friends still. I made my first real best friend in 5th grade. Her name is Deaja. I told her. She totally thought it was cool. 7th or 8th grade, I went to this camp. It was a church camp. And I met this girl, and for some reason we got on the subject of imaginary friends, and I told her I had an imaginary friend, and she told me that she had one too. And we were both 13, and that was my first time ever meeting another teenager or person my age with an imaginary friend. Whenever there would be a character in a movie or a TV show that had an imaginary friend, I would appreciate that so much, and I would relate to that character so well. DW from Arthur has an imaginary friend named Nadine, and I would always think so hard about the science and the psychology behind Nadine and her existence and how she disappeared. That show fosters home for imaginary friends. And then one of my favorite movies still is called Opal Dream, and it's about this little girl and she has 2 imaginary friends, and she believes that they're real and she knows they're real. And it's this live action movie and it's so good, you should watch it. A part of me knew that there was this inevitable point in the future when I would have to let them go. So when I was 19 or 20, I had a specific day. I'm getting emotional right now. I had this whole day and moment where we said goodbye, and they all went on. We had this agreement, they were gonna go on and live their lives. Go on, go out into the world. And I said goodbye to them, and I let them go. After 19 years of my life? That was very hard. Whenever they would come up, I would tell my parents, no, they're not pretend though. They're real. I honestly meant that, because they were so real to me. I mean, imagine having these 6 friends that you've known since you were 4. I had started doing research online in my teens. What kind of people have imaginary friends when they're teens, when they're adults? There are articles on it about if you have an imaginary friend after a certain point in childhood, it is because you are isolated or you don't have enough real human friends, or you have something missing in your life. So looking back now, I guess I created them because I had really extreme social anxiety and I didn't have that many real friends. There are also people online who claim to have imaginary friends that they know for a fact are real. There was a certain phase I went through where I really wanted them to be real so bad that it made me really upset. I found this lady that claimed that her imaginary friend disappeared one day. And one day she was in the grocery store and she ran into this guy that was her imaginary friend as a human, as a real person. It looked like him, it was his same age, and the guy even said it was him. So back then I took that story seriously, but repeating it out loud now, I don't know. Looking back now, maybe you're wondering, do I still think they're real? And I've asked myself this question a lot, and I found that it's hard to answer it. One, if I accept that they weren't real, then I was just talking to myself all those years. All those years that I thought I had friends, I was actually just alone. And then 2, what is real? Real is a concept, real is an idea. I think maybe if something is real to you, that's what matters. They were real to me, / are real to me. And I still talk to them sometimes, but only by accident. But sometimes when I'm alone in the bathroom or in places where I would talk to them in the past, I'll just start talking to them in my head. And then I'll realize, I don't do that anymore. They're not around anymore. When really, I'm just talking to myself. But then how is that different from what I would do all of those years? If I talk to them now, it's basically they're just here again. Almost like they went from being this person I could see to this voice in my head that I would talk to sometimes. almost like their existence dwindled down to just a little idea, like a little response I would get when really I'm just talking to myself and I'm the one responding. But there's a lot to it that is hard to kind of explain. I guess that's really all I have to say. If you happen to be watching this video and you found it because you were searching for videos on this topic, or maybe you already watched my videos, if you have any experience with imaginary friends, I would love to hear it in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye. My friends think I'm a really happy person, and they actually have no idea how messed up I really am. I have clinical depression, which means that one second I can feel totally fine, and the next I can feel extremely sad for no apparent reason. People have been telling me that I'm quiet my entire life because they think it's something I don't